and I'm going to Tallahassee.
Why?
Why? Because your daughter's going to meet the governor. We're going up to Lake County Day. Don't do that.
Here's Kara. Last minute preparations on the computer. Kara, look.
Doing her homework.
Back in your home communities with the legislative work that you see back there. We are also working, as I know you've probably heard throughout today, on a whole series of other bills. Not only the governor's priorities, which I know have been talked about today, the commerce privatization bill and the rules and regulations reform, and a whole host of others, but also try and work with the legislature to modify proposals that are made in the legislative body. And they range the full gamut from veterans preference bills for small contracts in hometown communities, which we were talking about earlier, to just about any subject that you can think of. And we're always interested in hearing your thoughts and your comments on those bills as you see them or hear of them or read about them in the newspaper. I hope you will feel free to give us a call and let us know what you think about some. Before he speaks, I have to take this opportunity to say, on behalf of, I know all of you, and on behalf of those of his employees who are here and all of the state, today is his 65th birthday.
39, right, Governor? 39?
Unlike one of his close friends, who we understand gave him a Medicare application, we had instead a birthday card that many of these folks here have filled out today and signed. And it's a happy birthday to the boss. All Woodsy friends. Thank you.
The only thing I can say good about a 65th birthday is that it's better than not having had it. Well, I know that a number of our people have been visiting with you, and I think Buddy has had some conversation with you, I know, on the rules and regulations. I wanted to report on the good news that I got a permit for my cook shop. I think somebody found out that I bought some dynamite. But that saga is continuing. We're beginning to try to see how we can do that. A number of people have been asking me about the session. I've said we're at about the point where the fellow that jumped off the 75th floor building, we're at floor 17, and so far so good, on our way down. So we're kind of waiting to see. Everything will close probably in about the last 2 weeks. But it's interesting because Florida finds itself at a point at which we're in a full recovery. Our employment is 4.3%. That's the lowest since we've been recording the numbers the way we're doing them now, and that's over the last 13 years. But it's pretty low from any time that I can remember, 4.3%. We have been creating jobs faster, going back and forth, Texas and Florida. One of us is first 1 month and one the second, but for the last 2 years, we've either been first or second in the number of jobs that we're recording, that we're creating. And yet with all of this, we got a budget that we're ended up cutting the hell out of all of the programs. So we've reached the point where we've got ourselves a tax base that it responds in recession. I can tell you, it goes down like a rock. And we have to cut programs. But now we're cutting programs at a time that we're sort of in full employment. And after a while, you've got to say there's something wrong with that base that we've got, that we exempt more things than we tax, that we're operating off of an engine that we designed in 1949, because that's when the sales tax passed. And literally, we have exempted more things since 1949 than we've added on there. We don't have an income tax. You don't want one, I don't want one. It's in the Constitution. We're not going to have one. Not during my lifetime or political lifetime. So that's off the table. I mean, that's just not even going to happen. So, and yet, I can't tell you right now that there's any great movement for tax reform. Every time we start talking about it, everybody says, yes, let's reform it, but not my piece of it. You know, we got to save that. And before long, everybody saves their piece and we're right back where we are, or unless we've got a number of bills to exempt more things this time. And that happens every session. We add a few more exemptions on. We don't add anything else. But we're in a fight this session. And the fight is between whether you're going to take money from education, whether you're going to take money from the social programs, whether you're going to take money from the parks and recreation and the land purchasing P2000 programs. We're not going to take any money from the prisons, because that's the one thing we're doing that, and everybody's in a game to see who can do the most. You know, we're talking about whether when I became governor, criminals were serving 31% of their time. They're now, anybody convicted now will serve 75% of their time. And I have a bill that will carry us to 85%, but the fight is whether that's 85% of the average, of all average, or everyone is going to serve 85% of his time. Now, if you're real tough on crime, you're saying everyone serves 85% of his time. Well, that costs us about another 10%. A few more $1 billion to do that. But it also, more than the cost, it takes away the discretion of our managers in our Department of Corrections to be able to give some kind of rewards out there and to manage the system better. Now, if you've got somebody that's a leader, now remember, you know, these prisons operate with 1 or 2 guards are inside, so to speak, and they're not armed. So in some ways, you're operating with the prisoners themselves, because if they all want to play bad boys, you can double or triple your guard force, and you're going to pay a lot more money. I wouldn't be a corrections officer, I'll tell you that, because now we're saying again, we're going to take away all TV. We don't want them to watch all this color TV. Well, they don't have any color TV. But my feeling on that is I'm listening to that correction officer, and he says that TV is there for me, protecting me. And I'm inside there with those people, then I'm going to say, let's have the TV. You know, it's easy for one of us that wants to be tough, who is not there, to say, do away with all these things, do away with all the recreation equipment. Don't let them play volleyball, don't let them do anything. These are bad people, they're mean. And you're just going to... They are. That's why we put them in jail. Now we're going to sort of poke them with a stick, you know. We're not going to let you exercise, so when you go to bed at night, you're going to just be seething, you know. But remember, almost all of these people are going to get out. They are going to get out. And, you know, so this is part of the thing that I see us playing. But what I'm saying is, the fight now is whether we will trash the schools or trash the social programs, and in a way, both of them will be trashed a little bit. And the other thing I'm seeing is, over the last 4 years, I think I am prouder about what we have tried to do in prevention programs. Spend that first dollar where you should spend it. There is amendments in both the House and the Senate to take the pre-kindergarten money. This is about $110 million. That takes those kids that are at risk and takes them at age 4 and starts trying to bring them up. Now remember, they've already spent about 4 years in which they didn't get what your kids and mine got, just crawling across the floor. They didn't bump into anything. They were in an empty house, so to speak, and there wasn't anybody there. But this is trying to take those kids and try to see if you can get them ready to go to the first grade, physically and mentally healthy, to learn. To me, it is the most valuable dropout program we have. Now, we're spending some millions of dollars to take a kid that's dropped out at age 14, 15, 16 and try to get them back into school. That dropout can be prevented at age 4, 5. You know, that's where you're $110 million is the only identifiable money from the lottery that is enhancement. The rest of it, as you know, it just got dumped into the education thing, and the lottery was passed, and we were all told it was all going to go for extra enhancement. It just replaced the general revenue dollars, and they spent it somewhere else. Now they're after that money, to take that money, and the superintendent, he's got a little different plan. He wants to make a block grant out of pre-kindergarten, out of safe schools, out of some of the Healthy Start money and some of the technology money, and send it all back to the school board, and his thing is local discretion. Well, I told him if he is for local discretion, let's send it all back to the school improvement committees in each school. Let them have the say. But what I'm seeing is this session, our fight is going to be trying to save some of the prevention programs. Healthy Start, our infant mortality figures have markedly improved. Our full service schools, we have 450 full service schools. We had 0 when Buddy and I started. As a result of the full service schools, and this is where you're using a school not just as a schoolhouse, but you're administering some of your social programs there. You can get counseling there. You can try to get help into the schools there, a health clinic. Teens pregnancy is on a marked decline with our full service schools. That's under fire, either going to be lumped or disbanded. So all of those programs that I think, you know, are the smartest dollar that we can spend are under great fire. And if you get a chance to talk to anybody, I hope you'll talk to them about those programs, because we're going to be facing some big votes about that. I hope that we're going to get a major thing in our rules and regulations. I think that's important. Enterprise we've talked about. The other program also along the prevention line is our Florida Health Security, and that's another one that's kind of interesting. We're the first state in the nation to take our Medicaid patients and put them into managed care, as opposed to where they just sort of picked their doctor and had a fee-for-service. We're saying that we ought to put them under a managed care where somebody says, wait a minute, this is the service you need, and somebody contracts with the doctors and says, we're going to give you X number of patients, and for that we expect you to do it at such and such price. Well, as a result of that program, we're going to save $5 billion, $1 billion a year over the next 5 years. We're already, this year, we're making savings of about $165, $170 million. That's the state share of Medicaid. State pays 45 cents, federal government pays 55 cents. The federal government has given us a waiver and says we can keep the federal share as if that program would have continued the same way it was going without managed care. They will allow us to have $3.5 billion over the next 5 years. And we then will take that and make a subsidized health program out of that for those people who do not qualify for Medicaid but who cannot afford health insurance today. 18.5% of our people are uninsured. They happen to be working people or the families of working people And our incentives are all backwards. If you don't work or you won't work, you can get health care. But if you do work and you're on a minimum wage job or something, you or your business can't afford it. So the signal we send to that mother is, don't work. You get AFDC, you get food stamps, you get daycare, you get health care. So we're trying to tilt that and say, wait a minute, we want to give health care to these people. Now, what do they do now? They don't go totally without. They go to the emergency room.
Yeah.
They wait till they're very sick. It costs very much, and you and I pay for it because our insurance goes up. The hospital has to get paid for that, or our local taxes pay for that. So that's what we're doing now. We're passing that cost on. Well, we have a chance to insure about half of those uninsured if we could use the savings. Now, what's happened? I saved $165 million. That's a little pot that's sitting out there. Oh boy, we can spend that for any program that we want to. And that's what's happening now. They're after the money. And they're saying, well, we don't need the health care thing now. Well, it's again, one of those things is the wisest place we could spend that money, plus the fact that we've got a chance to keep $3.5 billion. Now, to me, the most foolish thing in the world would be if the Florida legislature, good conservatives, send back to Washington $3.5 billion. It's our money that we have saved because they don't utilize this program. But that's some of the things that you're going to be hearing about in the next 4 or 5 weeks as we go down the line. Let me just stop and see if we got a few questions. Over here. Yes.
I have one, sir. When you mentioned moving the patients from Medicaid to the managed health care, and I've heard this said before, and I have a concern about it, and I know that there's some other people here. Our concern is that as long as we protect the quality of the service that is going to those individuals, as opposed to just taking consideration of the dollar saved.
Yeah. I don't know whether you've seen in the paper, but it's in the paper. We found that a number of the HMOs were ripping off the government and the people in regard to their coverage. We have gone out and done a survey on every company, and we just released that, and we put a moratorium on any companies writing new business now or new companies coming in until we got this survey done. We've done that, and I think 8 companies got sort of a passing grade, which is 90 or above, so they're B or above, and the rest are somewhere below. So the 8 that are 90 or above, they're going to be able to write new business, they're going to be able to expand. The others are going to be held until they make the grade. So we very much are going to police the quality of the care. And I think with Florida Health Security, we can do it better. Actually, again, our CHIPAs, I don't know whether we talked about those today, but that's our small business cooperative purchasing. We started last June writing policies, and we've got a CHIPA board in each one of the old HRS districts, so I think there are 11 groups around, in which we are allowing small business to be able to get the kind of group discount that major corporations could get, 1 to 50 employees. In the period of time since June, we have over 6,000 businesses that have joined, and it's over 35,000 individuals, 40% of whom had no insurance before, and they're enjoying discounts of anywhere from 15 to 40%. And remember, this is done through the market system. We're not creating a big bureaucracy for this. We've just said to companies, if you want to participate in this business, you have to have a policy that guarantees the coverage. It's a community-based rating, that you can't rate somebody on one illness in their family, that has that the outcome data has to be available, that we can see, exactly what your results are, what your costs are. And the interesting thing is we've got businesses with as few as, say, 10 people who have selected maybe 8 different types of policies, so they can kind of take off the policy. The employer writes one check, the individual writes one check, and yet they get this kind of cafeteria selection off of these policies. So there are a lot of companies that want to give a charter to a group that would set up the school and sort of privatize it in a way, require them to have a contract for what they would do, what their outcomes would be, and then maybe pay them on so much per pupil, on the basis of their going in. Now, the other side of that is the voucher, so to speak. The voucher is the bad whiskey to me, and that's where you just say to individuals, we give you a voucher and you just take it where you want to, because I see that as just destroying the public school system. But for allowing counties to experiment, with a charter school, I think, has some validity to it, and the legislature is kind of working on that.
You're back to healthcare. I understand that.
Let me take a minute.
I'd like to commend Gainesville Hospital as our investment choice for my husband, but in the paper I read that GOP is given a second chance, but they will be protected through the clinics to remain open, and for the patients and also for
Now this was
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Governor. Happy birthday to you. Sure, there's no judge.
Where's Judge Ito?
It might help if I take off the cap.
Hey, can I come early?
Okay, we're here in the house.
Which is fun.
So when you see somebody vote on the bill, that's what it's an hour.
Unfortunately, we're a little late. They're ready to break for lunch. Some have already left. And we have Kara. Say good morning, Kara.
Good morning, Carol.
Look.
Well, I think you get a lot of arguments out here about issues. They argue about issues for why you it's not anything personal. Like you probably told her about how important people it's all philosophical. What you believe in, what you make your life somebody who's going to learn to more males and females will have an opportunity one day to come down here.
You have the right to get a lawyer, but don't have the right to speak. And it will be used against you.
I'm still quite disgraceful, so that I have a lot of very good colleagues to take care of my patients when I'm down here. I want you to be educated in my Saturday. I have 7 patients in educated.
Judge Ito will be at the stand in a minute.
Everybody waiting. I said, I'll see y'all next Sunday.
That spring from the local areas where parents can be involved so that we can provide better education for our children. Senator Wexler's bill would tell, if you extended it to the ultimate, Senator Wexler's bill would tell private employers that they have to provide pension benefits for their employees. That's not the law right now. That's not found in the private sector. And we are in this bill saying we're going to have local schools that will come forth and experiment with new ideas that are not going to be bound by the rules and regulations that currently bind the public school system. That's why we said in the First Amendment that the rules and regulations that bind the public school system will not be applicable to the private system except with regard to health and safety of children. Senators, if we pass Senator Wexler's amendment, we are going to also have a two-edged sword, because we're going to tell the charter schools that they will pay a penalty if they decide to hire public school teachers. And so I would submit to you that Senator Wexler's amendment will have a backlash effect. Since the charter schools are going to have total discretion with regard to who they hire, they're going to not seek public school teachers, but discriminate against them. And I think it strikes at the heart of the bill, and it's an amendment we ought to defeat.
Senator Wexler, Senator Jennings, for what purpose? Speak in favor of the amendment.
Mr. President, Senators, I think you ought to look at Senator Wexler's amendment, because what Senator Wexler's amendment does not deter, does not harm charter schools. It advances charter schools. It's important for the people on this floor to realize that if you're going to have charter schools, you want to have as big a universe as possible when it comes to the teaching facility, the teachers. Senator Wexler's amendment gives the opportunity for 113,000 teachers to participate. We can talk about the opportunities from an intellectual standpoint of having smaller classes, more intellectual challenges in these charter schools. But let me tell you, there is a bottom line with everyone. That is an incentive, but there's also a financial incentive. What Senator Wexler's amendment does continues the retirement type of incentive that exists. If we want charter schools really to work, then Senator Wexler's amendment does that by assuring us that there's a pool of 113,000 teachers out there that will be encouraged to participate, not discouraged to participate. If we believe that there are good public school teachers out there, and I think we believe it, then we ought to encourage that pool to do it. Otherwise, we're going to have a diminishing number of teachers who will be encouraged to participate in this system. And I think that the spirit and the point of Senator Wexler's amendment drives charter schools forward. And
already in the bill that says as to health care benefits, if the public school teacher who's going to the public charter school wants to continue, and I assume the drafters of the bill thought, in my opinion, good reason, that that was important, because it was a health care benefit, and they ought to be allowed to continue with their health care benefits. All this amendment says is, don't provide a penalty for a public school teacher who wants to join with us and innovate and be bold. But don't provide a penalty to that teacher that says, if you do that, you do not collect 4 years worth of service on your pension plan. Because that's what's going to happen. That will inevitably happen. But in effect, preclude public school teachers from participating in it unless they're willing to pay a high price with respect to their pension benefits. This, although there's a difference of opinion, this is a friendly amendment. I want charter schools to...
The amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. The amendment fails. Amendment fails. 5 hands. Open the machine on the amendment by Senator Wexler.
See how they just voted on an amendment? Yeah. Oh, they're voting. Film that board.
All senators voted. Through 22, strike sections 26, 27, and 28. Senator Holzendorf. These amendments are handwritten. I don't know if they're on the desk.
Is that a strike representative?
No, you did that one earlier. This is up on the, these are the ones that were handed in at the end here.
I see that, okay. But
Where are they talking?
Temporary
No, where are they
capacity.
talking? Huh? Where are they talking?
She's talking to her mic and he's talking up there.
Okay, Senator.
Oh, okay, okay, this is a totally different concept. This is the amendment that allows you to create a charter school of technology. This is an entirely different concept from the intent language that is in the front of the bill. It does not conform with
No
other
one's
sections
even
of the
listening
bill
to us.
because it creates a school of technology as a charter school. And I think that's not adherent to the rest of the bill.
Which became
Okay, Senator Sullivan or McKay, you have a response on this amendment?
Mr. President, I would defend.
Withdraw the amendment. Read the next amendment.
On page 9, line 28 through 31, strike all of said lines. On page 9, line 6, strike between 70% and insert up to.
If you would temporarily pass that, I think they're working on an amendment to that. This is not a proven concept, Senator.
Okay, amendment by Senator Holzendorf. Senator Sullivan is recognized.
Well, Senator Holzendorf, what you're reading from there is the intent language. And I'm not sure that it's specifically that charter schools
Offer the potential to improve people's lives.
Potential is I think the key word that says that it's a possibility. It has the potential. It doesn't say it will, but it says it has the potential, the possibility of.
Okay,
I would speak against that amendment.
You're against the amendment, Senator McKay, for what purpose?
Mr. President, speak against I understand, Senator. In number 2, the data that's out there, and there is a considerable amount of data, clearly indicates they do offer that possibility. And this is intent language. And I would propose that it strikes again at the heart of the bill, and therefore you might want to withdraw it, Senator, rather than take the time to decide.
Okay, on the amendment by Senator Holzendorf.
You can clearly see how ambiguous the language is, and it should not be in the bill.
Okay, on the amendment by Senator Holzendorf, if you favor the amendment, please say aye. Opposed? No. The amendment fails. Further amendments.
By Senator Holzendorf on page 12, line 10 through 11, strike semicolon. Thereafter, the district school board may renew a charter for up to 5 years, period, and insert the legislature shall review the success of charter schools during the 1998 legislative session. At that time, action to repeal or reenact this law is required.
Extended for 5 years, and I'm saying that the legislature will review the progress of those schools before we allow a 5-year extension.
This is a bad amendment. These schools are going to be studied by the Department of Education, are going to be studied by the school district. They certainly are a legitimate study to assess their effectiveness by the Committee on Education. In 2 years, we may not even have a charter school yet.
President, I'm just pointing out to the senator the contradiction of his philosophy. He says that he didn't want the Department of Education to do a study to say whether or not there should be charter schools, but because the policy setting part was the legislature's. Now he's saying that once we set that policy, we ought not look at it in 3 years. But ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, that's what happened in your ass. We set the policy and created it, and we didn't look at it anymore.
That's right.
I think it's a good amendment. I think we ought to look at whatever we create so that we can have the opportunity to see our mistakes.
On the amendment by Senator Holzendorf, if you favor the amendment, please say aye. Opposed? The amendment fails. Read the next amendment.
By Senator Holzendorf on page 13, line 6. Insert after the...
And it says
This
that
is Senator
if they're not
Patrick
up to par
down here.
with the love at the level where they should be, then
Maybe we
that's
gotta
the
find it.
responsibility.
Well, Senator Holzendorf, I guess what I'm asking is, isn't it also an assumption that when they come back and...
Okay, this is cute. Yeah.
Leslie, do y'all want a massage?
Well, we're on the 3rd floor. Kara, you want a massage? Go over here, they're doing massages. On the 3rd floor of the Capitol building. And these are all the decorations for children that they brought in. A lot of our Lake County things are there. Unbelievable, all the hams and things hanging. Yeah, go ahead, go get one. Sure, you'd love that. Here's some more. It was unbelievable. Kara. There's one of Kara's hands.